This is Plan B, Episode 1, for April 10th, 2013. Welcome to the first episode of Plan B, Jupiter Broadcasting's new weekly talk show contemplating the future and present of Bitcoin, with insights for the novice, shop talk for the experts, and opinionated discussion for the interested observer of all things Bitcoin and related technologies. My name is Chris, and say hello to my co-host, Drew. Hey, Drew.
Hello, how's it going?
Hey, man. Welcome to our beta episode.
Thank you.
Now, this is probably sort of my most rushed show in history of Jupiter Broadcasting shows because I just couldn't wait. I just wanted to get this show out. I wanted to talk about Bitcoin so bad. And then today has been an absolutely crazy day. In fact, we started a couple of hours ago just because, we've been watching the price today. We'll talk about it later on in the show. We're going to get to some of the headlines and some of the coverage we've seen, but you're seeing headlines of massive Bitcoin crash over on TechCrunch, or Bitcoin correction finally comes and arrives, and The Verge is running articles on it, and Bloomberg has a Bitcoin finance blog they're updating as the day progresses. I mean, it's really something how the media has really taken to Bitcoin. If you noticed this just huge change, and as soon as the price went up, wasn't it? That's when it really kicked in.
Everybody's concerned with the price. Everybody was focusing on that. Once it starts exploding, everybody goes, oh, here we go.
Right, and then once it goes down, of course, the same thing happens. All of that excitement when the price was going up, all of that energy is turned when the price goes down, and of course, people jump on that as well. And I thought maybe as we start our new show, we should start with the media's coverage of Bitcoin, because I think there's going to be some contrasting opinions here, and there's a lot of stuff going on right now. But I think analyzing why they're getting into it sort of also answers why we're getting into Bitcoin. And some of you have heard of this story, of course, because it's a couple of weeks old now, but with the Cyprus news, there was shortly after that the announcement that there'd be a Cyprus ATM selling Bitcoins. You saw this?
Oh, yeah.
And then it was announced he's going to move out. He's got a bunch of pre-orders. Well, they got this guy on CNBC, and he says a few interesting things. So let's roll this, and this is going to sort of set up our analysis of how the media is covering Bitcoin recently.
Everyone is buzzing about Bitcoin as its total value tops $1 billion. Rick Santelli in Chicago with some more on that. Morning, Rick.
Ooh, we got to get jingles like that.
Good morning, Carl. Well, I guess we need to start at the beginning. What is a Bitcoin? Let's put it up on the screen. A decentralized digital currency based on open source software that uses peer-to-peer connections for monetary transactions.
Okay, so far so good, right? Not bad.
And real quickly, also, there's a bit of John Galt in it, invented in 2009 by a fictitious person named Satoshi Nakamoto, who many believe is a Russian mathematician named Grigory Perelman. Can it get any...
Now, I've not heard a lot of people make this connection. Have you heard this connection?
No, that's the first I've ever heard about that.
Yeah, okay.
Mr. Satoshi.
Yeah, so he generated quite a bit of buzz when he made that claim. People are trying to look into that now because there's also people who say he's in London. There's people who say he's all over, there's people who say it's a group of people. So That's probably a topic for later, but I just thought that, I don't know if anybody else had heard that. Chat room, if you've heard that before, maybe, but that was new to me too.
Any weirder than that? But the real issue is, does this just show how much of a lack of confidence there is in currencies and banks? Because this sounds a little strange. So, now there's going to be potentially an ATM where you can exchange fiat currency for Bitcoins. And the co-founder of Bitcoin ATM is our guest today. Jeff Berwick, welcome.
Thank you.
All right, let's hear how Bitcoin and an ATM in Cyprus and all the demand that the interest. You supposedly have hundreds of these ATMs requested. Tell me about it. Tell me about your business plan. Tell me how it works.
Yeah, you say it's really weird how Bitcoins came about, but that's really the free market at work, and the internet is the last place where there's actually a free market on Earth. Unfortunately, in the U.S., that doesn't exist anymore. There's no real freedom anywhere on Earth except for on the internet, and these are the kind of really interesting, exciting innovations that can come from the free market.
I love the show's already drawing trolls in our chat room. We've got Ron Paul in there, which is great, and Shitcoin, which is pretty funny. I like Shitcoin, although they're both going to get kicked if they're butts. But if they want to hang out, that's cool.
Look at Bitcoin, and it's an entirely new currency, completely decentralized, anonymous. Transactions occur incredibly fast, for free, all designed by the free market. It's an incredibly exciting thing.
This is the guy that's going to be selling that ATM.
What we've come up with is a big Bitcoin ATM, and the reason we've done that is because it's been a little hard to get access to Bitcoins. You can trade them over exchanges over the internet, but it's not all that easy to do. And many people actually just meet on Craigslist, and they meet up somewhere in some street.
Let me stop you right there. So now we have an ATM. There really isn't a coin that's minted. So when I go to this ATM and I have my fiat dollars.
All right, now get your thinking caps on, because he's about to raise what the media often brings up as sort of a core issue with Bitcoin.
And I want to exchange it for Bitcoins, I get a receipt of some sort or an algorithmic number set. Is that what I get?
Yes, when you have a Bitcoin wallet or account, you can just go up to the Bitcoin machine. You can actually show a QR code or type in your code if you'd like, and you can insert fiat currencies into the machine, and that will be immediately deposited to your Bitcoin.
But it's all numbers. There is no physical coin.
No, there isn't. That's actually one of the good things about it.
You see how that's actually one of the good things about it.
No, and I agree. Okay, now let's get to another issue. There's only supposedly a finite supply, and the only way the supply increases is through what's called mining. What is mining? Explain mining to me.
That's correct. The program was designed that they will slowly over time you can mine Bitcoins, but it gets slower and harder to do as the mathematical equations get more and more hard. Right now there's 11 million Bitcoins outstanding, or there will be in the next 10 days. It will reach 11 million. It's designed to eventually reach 21 million, and that will be the full limit. And people can actually set up a computer and mine Bitcoins. What it takes is processing power and electricity, but over time it gets harder and harder to do, and so it basically slows the inflation.
So it's easier
rate.
just to take $100 or swap it into a Bitcoin in your wallet. Another issue. Back in 2012, there was a bit of a scam. $230,000 was lost by Bitcoin holders, and I guess a little group was set up. But here's my question. We're almost out of time, Jeff. You know, who's the Ghostbuster?
Just throws that in there just to make sure he can instill a little concern and
and moving on.
Yeah.
I understand the central bank thing and the lack of confidence, but if something goes wrong in my Bitcoin experience, who do I call?
Well, that's the great thing about a free market. There'll be all sorts of free market innovations, and I write at the Dollar Vigilante, my blog, all about the end of the monetary system as we know it. This monetary system we have today is much more dangerous than anything Bitcoin has.
Well, I'll tell you, Jeff, you've been a great guest, and I know you're trying to get the first one of these.
I would love to get, I just can't stand that guy anymore. I would love to get one of these ATMs in my neck of the woods. I absolutely would go down to this thing, and I guess you would pay cash, right? And then it would spit out a Bitcoin receipt or send them to some account for you. Maybe they could fund like your Mt. Gox account or something. I think that's an interesting idea. So he touched on the physical coin thing, and the media talks about this a lot. And I think it's an interesting thing because people have to wrap their brain around it. They really can't really kind of grasp it. But it's obviously one of the things that once people understand, they get past. And this continued. CNBC had somebody else on that is a Wall Street analyst who's actually fairly positive on it, but he ends the interview by saying that Bitcoin is in freak show mode. Okay, so we've got CNBC covering it. They get the ATM guy on here. Now we get a Wall Street analyst on there. He says, oh, it might be interesting, but it's kind of a freak show.
Is this legitimate in your view?
It is legitimate, and it is a fascinating experiment in what it could be a brand new currency, one that knows no borders, knows no boundaries, and in many cases knows no rules. So I think it's a really fascinating case study in what's happening to our society globally.
Talk about the kind of attention that it's getting right now, especially from your clients?
Yep, it is getting a lot of attention. People are fascinated by anything that makes new highs every day for weeks on end, which Bitcoin has done. And so that draws a lot of attention. And then people are
Hedge funds, individual investors?
All of the above. Private investors, private capital, venture capital is very interested in this trend. So you're seeing a lot of interest across the board.
So what do you tell them? You tell them to buy it?
I tell them that it is certainly a valuable part of a diversified portfolio. To me, it seems like gold for nerds. You know, we had gold for many, many thousands of years as the relevant reserve currency. Bitcoin seems like it wants to step into that role for the online world.
Well, yeah. What do you think of this Bitcoin is gold for nerds concept, Drew?
I hadn't thought about it, but that's actually a good way to put it. I mean, it pretty much is, because the key fact or the key benefit of gold or any kind of precious metal is that the supply is mostly finite, mostly fixed, or pretty consistent in terms of how you can predict the amount of supply that would enter into the system. So
right. I mean, and the term mining conjures up images of gold, right?
Yeah, they're very. That was a very good move for them to actually name the process mining, because it helps people correlate that, from the digital realm to the physical realm, because so many people are still stuck very deeply in the physical world. So this whole idea of something existing in bits that you can't see or ever come to directly experience, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I thought that was, and plus also when you associate it with gold, then you go, oh, okay, well, gold's valuable. So we're going to continue down this trend here in a moment. I just thought that was an interesting point, and it'll come back.
Well, I think it's valuable in that respect. It's also potentially valuable as a method of transaction.
By the way, this guy's name is Coles. I didn't jot down his full name, but he's obviously. I'll try to get the rest of it by the end of the clip, but he's pretty experienced in this area.
Across borders, because it's extremely efficient, and that really is the next level of the story for Bitcoin.
But look at what's happened just in the last 48 hours here. Vulnerable to hacking, that crushed the price. It went from 140 to 100.
That's right. What's interesting is that the central nervous system of Bitcoin, the process of creating new Bitcoins and holding transactions, is very secure. But the individual wallets and exchanges are still very susceptible to the kind of denial of service attacks and hack attacks that you talk about.
Well, talk about...
Okay. I think that's fundamentally accurate, and again, I think it's really great. He's on the air. He's spreading valuable, correct information. The infrastructure is secure, but things like Mt. Gox, they're vulnerable.
Yeah, the humans involved.
The humans.
In the administering of the system.
Right, because anybody, because that's kind of what he's saying is, listen, the infrastructure is open. It's a community that controls it, but anybody can build a service on top of it.
And they can
anybody, and they can just they can make mistakes.
This is the currency block of lunch money. Why is this a viable alternative to a hard currency that's backed by central bank, by governments, regulated, and in circulation?
Yep. The bottom line is that Bitcoin resonates the same reason gold resonates, because nobody controls the supply aside from an algorithm that only issues 25 new Bitcoins every 10 minutes, and that'll decrease over time. So it's standardized and it's commoditized to a point where there's very limited supply. Anytime you get incremental demand, there's a positive story for the currency.
One question that I get a lot on Bitcoin is, what's the difference between Bitcoin and PayPal?
PayPal is denominated.
All right, now that might sound like a ridiculous question, but I've actually gotten that question a lot myself. What's the difference between PayPal and Bitcoin? And I think he does a good job here.
In currencies such as dollars.
Yeah.
Bitcoin is its own currency. So the transfer process looks similar, but PayPal is in dollars, Bitcoin is in Bitcoin.
So how do you get it?
You get it by going through any one of a number of local providers called wallets, and you can link up your bank account to purchase Bitcoin. Your purchase transaction goes through an exchange, and then you receive your Bitcoins in 3 or 4 days.
So why are you telling people? I understand the idea of a diversified portfolio, but you can diversify with a lot of things that aren't virtual.
Yes. As we move into a 21st century world, a technology-based world, it makes sense that something like Bitcoin will eventually be very successful. Is it Bitcoin? No one has any idea. But you certainly pays to be exposed to it early on.
What do you think of the Bitcoin bubble stories? Cover the Financial Times yesterday.
Yeah, bubble's an easy term to throw around.
Well, if you've seen the price, it's a moonshot.
It is absolutely a moonshot. The question really you have to ask about Bitcoin is it going to move beyond just being this kind of freak show reserve currency story of the online world to being a real, viable, long-term transactional currency?
And you say yes.
I say it's very possible.
But we're still in freak show mode.
We're still in freak show mode.
Okay, not so bad. So that's Nicholas Coles, or Nick Coles. He is Director of Research at BNY Convergix in New York. And, of course, they're a massive money firm. And he's also been a portfolio manager at SAC Capital and an equity analyst for the automotive credit services. So he's got like a lot of experience behind him, and he's coming in here and he's saying I think Bitcoin's real. I'm advising some of my customers to put some of their portfolio in it, and I thought, okay, that sounds pretty good. So this guy seems like he comes from a pretty established background, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Now, on the pre-show, I had asked you, have you heard of Max Keiser?
And I said no.
Right. Now, you've heard the name, but that was about it.
Right.
And I think that's probably true for a lot of people in the audience now. Max Keiser used to be a Wall Street dude back in the good old Coke days of the 80s, and he made a ton of money. He invented a virtual currency trading system that was, like, I believe, used as an internal trading mechanism. I don't really know the details on it. And he sold that, made a ton of money on that, got in some trouble. I don't know the details on that either. And now hosts a show on Russia Today called The Keiser Report. And he's been in Bitcoin since, I think, 2011, 2012-ish time. And he's just been getting more and more and more sort of as he's becoming a public face, one of the public spokespersons for Bitcoin. He tweeted today, actually, that he's trying to get investors involved in Bitcoin. Here's what he said. I'll have this in the show notes. He said, I have a personal goal of getting hedges involved to drive BTC to 1,000 for non-U.S. residents, and he links it here. There's 100K minimum buy-in, and it's called Extentua, and 100,000 minimum, and these people manage your Bitcoin buying for you. And I thought that's pretty interesting. And then when you think of like guys like Max Keiser and people like him used to be pushing silver and they used to be pushing gold, right? And is there sort of a Bitcoin versus gold relationship building? And this clip addresses that.
Now, the other concern out there is this: are Bitcoins killing gold's price? The use of Bitcoin seems to have increased dramatically in Spain, Italy, Greece, Cyprus, and elsewhere in Southern Europe over the last 2 weeks. This is most likely driven by increased concerns about the future value of the euro. Historically, these kinds of concerns would have had investors headed for the safety of gold. Instead, the value of Bitcoins has shot up in relation to the euro. And remember, during the Cyprus crisis, there was a $1.3 million purchase on Mt. Gox for Bitcoins. And that's the thing is, like, you know, they have capital controls. They have people at the airports looking to see if you have more than 1,000 euros cash. However, if you have a thumb drive of Bitcoin, you can cross the border.
Or you can keep Bitcoins in a mined wallet.
That's Max.
You know, if you just memorize the address, you can walk around anywhere in the world with $1 million, $2 million, $5 million, $20 million in Bitcoin. And you can use that as good currency. And I just want to point out that when the Cyprus crisis hit and Bitcoin, it was just getting into that 40 to 45 range, I said it would get to 150 on the Cyprus crisis. It did, in fact, get to 148, which is, you know, good as 150. I was 100% correct on that. Now, the relationship between Bitcoin, gold, and silver, I think it's a bit premature to make those kind of connections because the market cap of Bitcoin is not quite heavy or big enough. However, I will say that those who are owning and buying and building positions in Bitcoin, it would be prudent to peel 10% off of those profits and park the profits into silver, because silver is the natural hedge of Bitcoin.
No, we'll maybe parse that later. I thought that was interesting, but you know, something to keep in mind when you're investing in Bitcoin, like especially on a day like today when the price has been all over the place. Those of you who have diversified a little bit are going to feel a little better today. Going forward, Bitcoin and silver will be vying as who will be the global currency that will replace all the other fiat currencies like the dollar and the euro and these other currencies. Bitcoin, especially in places like Africa, will explode in value. America, I predict, will be so frickin' stupid as to try and outlaw Bitcoin. That would take them out of the global economy completely, and all economy would shift to the south in Africa and to east in Asia. So this is how you play it going forward.
How I look at it is that gold and silver are protection against the collapse of your government and society, whereas Bitcoin is a protection against the collapse of the banking system and confiscation, therefore, that happens from those deposit accounts. So, you know, they work hand in hand. One doesn't discount the other or discredit the other. No, they do work together. They're the only three hard currencies in the world, gold, silver, and Bitcoin. They're going to have different relationships price-wise going forward. And the point is the rise in Bitcoin sucking capital out of gold and silver? I think not yet, but it will, especially when Bitcoin gets to around the same market capitalization of silver. So that would imply a price of Bitcoin of $2,700
dollars per Bitcoin, up from the current 120, 150 range, which I see happening, in the not too distant future. Then you'll see a lot more money flow back and forth from silver, Bitcoin, gold, et cetera. But these are the only 3 hard currencies in the world today.
One of the other.
I thought it was interesting that he says Bitcoin is one of the 3 hard currencies in the world today. I don't know if I would. I mean, how can you say that until it's accepted by more people? But anything you take from that, Drew?
Well, I was actually wondering what he was going to say for the third, because I was like, is he actually going to say Bitcoin here? Gold, silver, and what else am
Bitcoin.
I expecting?
No, it's gold, silver, and Bitcoin. It is.
I was like, all right. Well, I didn't know he was a big fan. I thought he was a troll or something. I guess I got myself wrong.
I don't know. I think so the problem is with Bitcoin is who's to stop him from going on air and pumping and pumping and pumping, and meanwhile while he's pumping, he's selling in the background.
Yeah, that is true.
There's no oversight, right? There's no security exchange is going to come down on him and punish him for broadcasting and manipulating the market on air using his show, right? That's the great thing about Bitcoin, and that's the downside to Bitcoin, right?
Yeah, that's a good point.
So he could be that, but I don't think it is. Just because I've watched, I'll have a link in the show notes. I watched some of his older presentations where he's not so much in an entertainer mode. And he's just kind of at a conference, like talking about Bitcoin. Like I think I have like a London conference linked in the show notes. And he just seems to get it. And I think these clips show that different people at different aspects in the media are starting to get it, and they're explaining the concepts while not. I mean, they're doing it at a very high level, but they're to some degree successfully explaining it. One last clip I want to play because it kind of transitions us into the price discussion that is absolutely nuts, and that is the concept that today the price dropped dramatically, as much as 50%, and everybody started freaking out online, and everybody who's been waiting for it to crash has posted saying, "Ah, look at the crash." And I think today will be looked at as 50% off Wednesday day. I honestly think we'll look at this on the charts and go, man, everybody who bought on that day, great job. Because we're starting to see people who are not really in it for the long haul, that have a price at these lower levels, they're off-gassing, they're selling, they're getting out of the system, we're weeding them out, they're leaving, and people are buying in at a higher price. So if somebody comes in and buys at 120, you damn better be sure they're going to hang on a lot longer than the guy who bought at 25, right?
Because he has to put a lot of money into it to buy $120 per coin.
Right.
He's got to have a lot of investment in that for making real profit.
While during the day, it's crazy. Right now, I'm trying to show the market prices. We're supposed to have a live ticker on our video, which I can't show because Bitcoinity's down. I mean, it's Mt. Gox had like an hour lag. It was epic bad, and everybody's using this as sort of like, look at this, look at that, look how bad things are going. I look at this and go, and I could be completely wrong, but I look at this and go, man, if anything, this is just strengthening the floor. And whatever we settle at, that's going to be really a firm floor. And we're going to build up from there, and it'll go up, and then we'll have another correction. And these corrections are more dramatic than they should be just because of the damn leg at Mt. Gox and some of the other. I mean, every exchange seemed to be getting a denial of service attack this week, too. I was trying to go to Bitfloor, and they were up and down, and Coinbase was up and down, and it was nuts. And I think the reason is because as soon as the price goes down, people start buying like crazy. There's so many people. There's like 15,000 people in the Mt. Gox queue right now. And another clip here, I think it's from Keiser. He's essentially saying people are hedging against bank money and saying, you know what, I'm going to put a little bit of my portfolio into Bitcoin. And they're just basically investors who've earned a lot of money on the stock market and all these other places where they're just making tons and tons of fiat. They're not putting it all in Bitcoin, but even if they just put small amounts of it in Bitcoin, it's still a huge result for the Bitcoin market. Take a listen.
So the first headline I have on the state of the American dream today, SAC's Cohen buys $155 million Picasso after settling trading probe. Stephen A. Cohen, whose SAC Capital just settled 2 insider trading lawsuits with the government for $616 million, has bought himself a gift, Picasso's Le Rêve, for $155 million, the most ever spent by an American.
Yeah, well, this is great because you have a fiat money Ponzi scheme. This guy, Stevie Cohen, breaks the law, just going to the bathroom. Everyone in the industry knows it.
You know, I love that he calls fiat money a Ponzi scheme, because that's a term that's thrown at Bitcoin all day long, right? I mean,
of course,
you've
all the
seen
time.
that, yeah. And of course, really, if you look at a Ponzi scheme, you could make that argument just as much on the fiat side, which I think we could make later on. But I think it's funny. He just kind of threw it in there and moves on.
He's a huge percentage of volume on the New York Stock Exchange. He feeds a lot of those hungry brokers at J.P. Morgan and Goldman. He feeds them fish every day of illegal trading. But he's got a lot of fiat money in his pocket, and he needs to convert it into something that won't crash when the bubble he's inflating crashes. So he buys a Picasso. Some people buy gold, silver, Bitcoin, things that have intrinsic value,
things that have intrinsic value.
value.
There's the third one again.
Real value.
And he's smart in that he's parking the money he steals. And let me say, I'm using this word literally, steals, as in Eric Holder would prosecute him if Eric Holder wasn't in Stevie Cohen's pocket licking his buttocks. He puts that money into something that's going to maintain its value.
Now, while that's kind of adorable for Max to say, you know, that. But really, isn't that what Keiser's kind of doing by introducing this hedge fund for hedgies, where there is $100,000 minimum buy-in? It seems like this is built for these people who are making tons of money on the markets to stash their money in. Like he's setting up the channels for these people to move their stolen money into, and then he goes on air, and I mean, this is my impression, but he seems to then berate them. But at the same time, I mean, he must be, if he's sitting here promoting these people's services, and he added it, if you go to maxkeiser.com, I don't know, I find the Max Keiser thing interesting because it's interesting to watch the media and big names jump in. See, he's got a banner at the top of his website, and when you go to that, it's kind of, now it's not loading. Oh, there it goes. And when you go to that, it's kind of interesting. They have a section on their website about Bitcoin, and they explain what Bitcoin is. The Bitcoin fund exclusively available on the Exante platform. Once you become a customer of theirs, they say, why purchase on a fund level? And one of the reasons that they say you might want to purchase through them is because they'll do 1,000 Bitcoin trades per click is one of their functionalities. So if you want to trade in thousands of Bitcoins at a time, and they manage the wallet, they manage all of that for you, and you just call them up and say, hey, buy me 5,000 Bitcoins, thanks. And then they just do it.
That's a very cool service. And that's the cool thing about, not having any kind of regulation around this is basically anybody can do whatever they want. And the quality goods and services, people are going to pay for them.
And I think this is why when we look at the price today, I think it's still massively undervalued just with this level of interest out there. I watched it this morning. I think when I woke up, you get up a little earlier than I do. Did you check the price when you got up this morning?
No, it's been freaking me out too much.
Good for you. Yeah,
I leave the tab with a little control W there.
No, that definitely, I did a little bit of that today when it was going crazy. I was like, I got stuff I got to go do. Yeah. But when I woke up, it was around 250, 260. It was still up pretty high.
I saw it was way up there. And then, I came back to it. Oh my goodness. I was like, what's going on? Of course, you see the trading lag, 1,000, 5,000 seconds.
Yeah.
Everything must go.
Yeah. So watching that go down today, I was like, oh man. And I was like, okay, we got to talk about some of this on the show today. And it's just funny because I think right now there's so many accounts on Mt. Gox waiting to be activated. I'm in position 7,000. I was in position 13,000 a few days ago. I think their queue is around 15,000 people waiting to have their account verified right now on Mt. Gox.
That says something right there for where the price will go. Because if all these people are gunning to get in there, then we are going to see a rise. And corrections are a good thing. Any kind of correction like this, it sucks if you bought high and sell low like I do. But these are a good thing. Once it reaches its bottom, it's going to be showing everybody that it's not going to go anywhere. It's not going to drop down to $1 or $2 like it did the last time when they had that huge hack in the last year or two ago.
Right. This is the problem. Is it really? Corrections are good. These dramatic swings are bad for PR. Like I'm looking at some of these news stories right now on The Verge and on some of these other places, and it doesn't do well for people who are a little skittish. I don't want to call out names, but there's a few people in our IRC chat room right now who are convinced that not only is Bitcoin a Ponzi scheme, but some people actually think that it's being used by hackers to calculate rainbow tables around the world, which it is not. And So these types of stories, and it's interesting to see The Verge just all over it too. I think it's all Mt. Gox's fault.
For being too big?
Well, I can't blame him for being too big, but for not having a better system.
Well, yeah. Well, I think they kind of go hand in hand. I mean, is that what's going on, though? Are they getting DDoSed? Is that because that's what happened last week?
Yeah.
Right? That was the official word.
It seems like it. And
it
so
seems like it.
I think the DDoS term gets thrown around a little bit more than it should, but the fact that like Bitfloor was tons of the sites go down, and some of that is interest. Like there's just a lot of people when there's stuff happening in Bitcoin right now that they just slam these sites. So I don't know if it's so much DDoS or if it's maybe bad back end design. Like Mt. Gox just announced that they're making a change in the way how some of the trading is going to work, and the way where you could put a buy-in at a lower or at a lower price even if you didn't have it funded yet, and then it would sort of sit in the books, and their system has to keep checking the books even if it's not shown on the public book. And I guess that was one way that basically bots could go in there and put a ton of those orders in, and so even though they weren't showing up in the public books, the system was still having to process these huge amounts of potential buy orders that were unfunded. So they're changing that to help with delay. But if you watch the ticker, which I almost have on a monitor always, you'll see that before the leg starts, there's like these 0.002 cells that just start going and going and going and going and going. And that seems to be like, I mean, I watched it happen this morning before the big sell-off started happening. And I watched the little leg on Bitcoin to just start ticking up as these little cells start rolling in. And I think there's somebody has figured out that it costs them less to sell and jam up the system and generate all this lag and then buy low.
So it's like an indirect DDoS in a way, because they're overloading the functioning system in the back end.
They're gaming the engine.
Manipulating that.
That's my theory. They're gaming the engine, and they're paying to do it. So it's actually semi-legitimate because they're selling off little bits of coin, and when the value is so high, people want that. People buy because everybody, I think newbies think they got to buy one Bitcoin at a time, and you can buy fractions of a Bitcoin, right?
Oh yeah.
So there's tons of people buying that because that's all they can afford. So these guys, they just sell, and it just seems to slam the system. So it's like not like I don't think it's so much like we're throwing tons of traffic at it, although that could be happening too.
Yeah, not actual network traffic, but actually overloading the back end,
right?
Really designed in a way.
And there's been this rumor going around called I think it's like Operation Fool's Coin. Have you heard about this?
No, I haven't.
So it's hard to know if I don't even know if I could find it, but it went up on Pastebin. It claims to be like an anonymous group who were organizing to DDoS the exchange, and I don't know if it's legit or not. I've seen it crop up a few times, but it basically what it implied was that people are sort of organizing, and then collectively they're DDoSing via like group sells and group buys. Like they're all getting together and saying, "All right, okay, at this time."
They're coordinating moves.
Yeah. And then some of these other sites just go down as everybody else freaks out. Like blockchain.info has been going up and down all day.
I've been getting 502s everywhere. Like just before the show or the pre-show started, I was pulled up some tabs, checked stuff out, but I don't know. I can't really do anything. Just close them all out. Screw it. Yeah, I'll come back later.
See, this has got to get fixed. And I think I don't know much about Ripple. Are you familiar with Ripple?
No, I haven't. No.
I know that it's sort of a Bitcoin competitor, but one of the components of Ripple is there's another huge sell-off going on right now. One of the components of Ripple is I believe a peer-to-peer exchange. Now think about that, right? I mean, that's a peer-to-peer currency.
Hey,
peer-to-peer currency could use a peer-to-peer exchange. That would sort of be ideal, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Because these large, I mean, they're not really central authorities, but they kind of become central authorities, just through market forces. Just Mt. Gox just they didn't do anything really special, but they became such a huge power that a peer-to-peer system would be really cool to see.
Right. I mean, I think the thing about Mt. Gox is they were the first to get their shit together, right? They were the first ones to really have a workable system. They were the first ones to establish connections with Dawala. I think that was huge.
That was huge. That's actually what got me into it.
Yeah.
I couldn't figure out how to pay into it back in like 2011.
Right. And
open an offshore bank account.
And then now, because of their momentum, they've been there's some of the leaders on being legit and having verified accounts and doing things above board and working with the authorities there in Japan and reaching out to the U.S. Authorities. And I think those things have given people confidence in Mt. Gox, and they also suffered a hack and they seem to have made repairs and improvements. But the reality of it is I think if somebody came along and did it better, and I think Ripple or whatever, something like that, and maybe I'm completely wrong on Ripple, but something like that I think would be huge. But you got to imagine the delay, right? The thing about Mt. Gox is it's instantaneous. Like these sell-offs I'm watching right now, these instantaneous sell-offs. Holy crap. But that's just my little rant for the day. I don't really know where to go with that. There's not much we can do.
Did it lose $100 today? Am I seeing that right?
Well,
the price?
Just now?
Jeez. I haven't looked at a chart in a while because they're getting 502s everywhere, but that's no bueno.
Oh, yeah, man. No, I have it up on I'll put it up on the stream. It was, if you figure the high today was in 260s, and right now we're at around 150. I think all of this is what this is really telling us is you and I should stop doing this podcast and we should go buy some Bitcoin using Bitfloor or something. So let's talk about this real quick. Do you have any experiences buying Bitcoins fast? Like, I want to buy some right now. I want to take advantage of this flash crash. Maybe somebody just got their tax return or something. Are you familiar with some ways to do this? Because there's a couple of methods I've used. And I got burned really bad.
I put like 10 grand in like a couple of years ago, and that's the only amount of fiat dollars that I actually put into Gox. And then
and you do that like via
I haven't used Bitfloor or anything like that. Nothing like that.
All right, well let's talk about Bitfloor and let's talk about BitInstant, because I think I don't know if this is going to be relevant for many people because the price probably come up pretty soon. But if you get in a situation where you need to buy Bitcoins right away, maybe you want to fund an account for an ASIC miner. I don't know what you. Oh, of course, Bitfloor is down right now. See, this is what I'm talking about, man. This infrastructure stuff's got to get fixed. This is cartoonish. So let's start with the one I got burned with, BitInstant. Now, the thing about BitInstant that's pretty slick is they support cash deposits. Like you go into a participating local branch. I think they're only Bank of America's right now, but there's like Bank of America's all over America. And when you go in there, you bring in this slip that you've already printed out from their website with all your information, and you can do a deposit, or you can do a wire transfer. BitInstant has a lot of different options. So I got screwed doing this. They at the time had a PayPal method. Now they've taken this away, but I tried to transfer money between BitInstant and PayPal, and they lost $200 of my money. They've never given it back to me. I've never gotten any resolution to it at all. I've seen lots of threads from other people that saying they've lost money. So make sure all your I's are dotted, all your T's are crossed when you're using BitInstant, because I think if you make any mistakes at all, and I don't even know if I did.
And you raised it with their support, and they just brush you off.
Well, so here's the hard part, because you kind of the onus is on you to remember the order ID.
Oh, come on. You don't get it through the email or anything?
Well, so I did 2 purchases with BitInstant. One, I got an email, and then they had a link in there and I could check it. The second one, the one where I lost the money, I never got the email.
Wow.
And I had to leave. I actually had to get up and I had to go do a show, and I ended up restarting my computer because my browser had locked up when I was doing the show, and I got back. And so I didn't have the page. And I didn't have the email. And I couldn't find it in my history for whatever reason. It's just like this ridiculous set of circumstances. So I don't have the order ID and I don't have the email.
Is it like anonymous? I mean, do you have to like register an account with them with any kind of information? Or is it just kind of you show up, you pay for it, and you leave?
Yeah, that's why you have to have the order ID.
What?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I guess it makes sense if you're not going to have that kind of registration system.
And I just wanted something quick because I was trying to buy a note. I was trying to buy a note too. So the other one that I've heard a lot of good things about, who's down right now for whatever reason, is Bitfloor. Now, Bitfloor kind of works the same way, although they have a bit of a better reputation, and they also support a few other finance methods like wire transfers, and the same concept. You go into the ATM, and you get the Bitcoins. Some people say within 10-15 minutes. They say 30 minutes. So at the time, you make the order, and then by the time you get down to the local Bank of America and then drive home, in a lot of cases you have the Bitcoins.
Oh, that's cool. So you don't actually have to. The Bitcoins aren't transferred to you once you get to Bank of America, you make the order, then you go and pay for it, right?
I should clarify. That's BitInstant, you get them immediately at market price. BitFloor, you fund a trade account and then you can buy them immediately at market price. So it's a little bit different. So with BitInstant, you literally you can come home and you have an email with the information on how to get the Bitcoins. Like they're yours. With BitFloor, you can fund something and then buy them right away. And that's like right now, I mean, the only reason I just bring this up is because when you see a flash crash like this, in my opinion, now don't take any advice from me because I'm a moron. I don't know anything about money. In my opinion, this is a buy opportunity right now.
Buy.
Yeah, I would say so, right?
Well, I mean, look at where the price was. Look at the trajectory of it, and we're seeing huge spikes, but they pretty quickly recover. I mean, the last time it went crazy, it jumped right back.
And they're having a hard time because the exchange is still heavily legged out. And I think, I could be wrong, but I think, when we play those media clips, you heard what those guys are saying. That what that is momentum that is building outside the geek bubble. That stuff that's outside the Bitcoin community, the cryptocurrency culture. That is money at magnitudes that Bitcoin has never seen before, and these guys are talking about getting in. And when they see the price like that, to them, all that means is they're going to get it in a good price.
Oh yeah.
Because the fundamental thing about this is really what makes Bitcoin valuable is when you have all of these fiat currencies that are flopping all over the world. Bank-backed state money is just. I mean, look at Cyprus, right? And then you see a huge uptick in Spain, right? You're going to see the same thing in the United States.
Oh, absolutely. 100%. It is going to happen.
Bitcoin is the first decentralized digital currency. And the decentralized part is so valuable because it is immune to these systematic problems that the fiat-based currencies have. And I know everybody listening to this show probably already knows this, but these guys are just figuring that out. And they know it more than anybody else because they're in the system. They know what a bubble it is. You don't think they've been looking for a lifeboat? This is their lifeboat. That's the thing. I honestly think that's how they see Bitcoin. They see it as a lifeboat for all of the outrageous amounts of money they've made.
Right. And the U.S. isn't going to, the U.S. isn't going to declare bankruptcy. It's going to be a soft default, which means we're just going to keep printing money more as time goes on. And you're going to be devaluing everybody else's holdings, everybody else's property, intentionally devaluing them. So once you get into Bitcoin, you don't have anybody to do that to you. That's the huge benefit of it.
Right. And on top of that, it also functions very well as a transactional currency. Like I've paid for services using Bitcoin. I've bought items with Bitcoin, and now I can sometimes regret it. I look back and go, oh man, that Galaxy Note 2, that ended up being a $900 phone, because I spent Bitcoin on it. But at the same time, I feel like I set a little bit of Bitcoin aside to spend because I want to encourage.
Test it out, yeah.
In order for it to really be a healthy currency, it needs to be used too. You can't
The whole idea of it strictly being speculative that scares me. People got to stay away from that. But to make it a really fundamental, like revolutionary thing is it has to really emerge as a means of exchange and a store of value, not just like a currency speculation device just to make short profits. And we need like a full economy to come around this. I don't like the whole idea about the focus on the price. And oh my God, we dropped $100. It freaks me out, but we need it to stay stable. If we want this thing to stay around, we need a steady increase in price or a slight decrease here and there. Nothing crazy. Like we're seeing too much. That's what's scaring some people. But even with these huge swings, it's still gaining a lot of popularity. And I think even those huge swings are not deterring most people.
Right, and you look at the queues. You think people are actually just going to use it as they're just going to jump on it. So like right now, for example, okay, so BitFloor is back up. Right now, if I wanted to buy a BitFloor, I could grab as much Bitcoin as I could afford at 170 USD in cash, and I'd have it in 30 minutes. This kind of service is going to really dramatically lower the barrier of entry into Bitcoin. There's this huge technology wall of complication that's still around Bitcoin that I think confounds people like nothing else. I mean, it is 166, man. It's just going down. It is. I think we kind of have a couple of things coming our way. We have services like Bitfloor and BitInstant. Boy, BitInstant needs some work though, and so does Coinbase. But Coinbase, when it works, is amazing. You log into Coinbase, you set it up ahead of time to your bank account, and then you buy Bitcoins at the price at that moment, and then it goes and gets the money out of your bank account over a couple of days, does a wire transfer, and then you have the Bitcoins. And because they're so popular now, they're not able to always provide that service, and you can only buy it what the market price is going to be when they get funding. But Coinbase makes buying Bitcoin a one-click process. And Coinbase has so many problems. They just leaked people's information online, and nothing major, but I'm one of them, and because I have a merchant account set up with them. But it means that while this price is going down, you have all of those accounts pending approval on Mt. Gox. You've got Wall Street guys saying on media that, hey, maybe you want to put a little, just like you're putting a little money in gold and silver, maybe you want to put a little money in Bitcoin too, because it's even less, it's less immune to manipulation than gold is. Although people can still manipulate Bitcoin, but I think when you combine that with these super easy methods to buy Bitcoins, it's really going to be a floodgate that opens. Because now, that difficulty is kind of constraining, I think, the market.
Absolutely. It's a pain in the ass to open a Dwell account. I went through all that crap. I started buying Bitcoins back in the day, when in 2011 at $2. So I got some cash in Mt. Gox, but I had to open another account with Dwell. And you got to wait, days. I'm seeing the price just go up. And just like the genius I am, buy high, sell low. I bought it $31. Then it crashed.
Ouch.
$2 or $4. So I was trying to get in, but that huge hurdle of waiting all that time and not being able to purchase them, at the current market price, and then have the money transfer, to them in a couple days. I got screwed for this process. So these new services that are building around Bitcoin, you're absolutely right. It's going to completely, it will open those floodgates, as you said. There's going to be tons of people getting into it because you can make these quick little transactions. You don't have to go through all that crap, going to Dwell account, doing some kind of confirmations. I don't even remember what it was. I don't want to remember. Took forever.
The other big disruptor, I think, is going to be a service called BitPay. You heard of these guys?
Ah, man, too many bits. I don't know what's going on.
I know
everything.
It's like iDevices up in here, right? You got iEverything, I guess, but everything's Bit. No, so BitPay it's really the reason why you probably haven't heard of it that much is because
I have. Yeah,
it's for businesses, right? It lets you be a Bitcoin merchant. What's awesome about BitPay is it lets you set up a complete payment processing backend, and people can pay you in Bitcoins, and you can have the BitPay system immediately exchange that to USD, so you get the immediate market value if you want, and it can dynamically update prices on your end via their API. Or you could have it do a portion, so it sells off a portion in USD, but then keeps a portion in Bitcoin for you. You can set up these kind of rule systems in place. I think that is super slick, and what it essentially does is it turns Bitcoin just into the payment processing protocol. It's the system it's the back end system, and the other currencies kind of just ride on top of it because it's exchanging them in real time. So I think something like BitPay is the exact type of solution we need for merchants to start accepting Bitcoin on the other end. So you've got systems like Coinbase and BitInstant and Bitfloor and hopefully Mt. Gox get their crap together that are making it easier to buy Bitcoins. You got hedge funds that are now getting into it where they're going to manage this stuff for their customers for them, who are going to be doing massive $1,000 or 1,000 Bitcoin purchases in a single transaction. All that's billing on that side, while BitPay's billing up on the other side to payment process all of that. Yeah, it's just looking at right now. It's just the beginning. We're still at square one now. Right now.
Yeah, Bitcoin was crawling, and it's just starting to walk right now, and it's starting to run. Whoa!
Yeah, it was starting to run, but it tripped. It tripped and fell, and it's bruised
every couple days here and there. You know what I'm saying?
It bruised its knee today.
Mt. Gox throws a hockey stick down to the shins.
You know what would be fun to do once we kind of get a feel for the price. Once maybe not today's not the day to do this. Well, maybe, but we should try to do an estimate what we think the price will be by the next episode.
Yeah, I'd be great at misleading people consistently.
Yeah,
let's
so
go ahead and
far
do that.
you seem to have a pretty good record. Do you want to hear my war story? I should probably admit this in the first episode.
We should. That should be some kind of segment in the future or something. Because man, I've been like lighting myself on fire. Being burned. I'm burning myself like all the time, every day. I screwed up today.
Yeah.
Litecoins. But yeah, go ahead.
Oh no, I screwed. Well, yeah, we should. Maybe we'll talk a little about Litecoins here in a second. Might as well get that in the first episode too. That we can really upset people. I lost about 79. See how I say about? I lost 79 Bitcoins. I think in 2011, I was using an online wallet. I can't remember the name of it now. I've blocked so much out because it just hurts so bad.
Oh, me too.
And they got hacked. And I'm just going to plug in there 79. Let's see, if I was to have 79 Bitcoins.
You got to put the calculator away. You can't keep doing this.
That'd be $10,000.
You're killing yourself, man.
So I lost, at current price, after the crash, I lost $10,000. So imagine what I was thinking about it this morning when it was at 260. Every time it reaches new highs, I think about this atrocity that happened to me. But and then around that same time, it was almost like maybe within a week, I can't remember now. Mt. Gox got hacked, and the price went way down because of all the phony sell orders that went on the books, and it crashed the price down to nothing. And I just kind of sat back and I said, I'm done. You know what? I lost half my Bitcoins. I took what I was able to recover from their backups, threw them on a wallet in my hard drive, turned off all of my miners, and I had like 6 machines that were mining, GPU mining, and said, I'm done. And so that's my big regret now, because I could have just got back up and, just brushed the dust off and picked things back up. But I was burned, man. I was mad. And I looked at that and I thought, this is a fundamental problem with the currency, because it is just too easy for this to happen. I'm done. Because, my wallet had been hacked, and then my exchange had gotten hacked. And now I kind of regret that decision,
Well, yeah, we just, there's no way we could have seen this coming. I try not to kick myself, but I do, subconsciously over and over again with, I've had similar stories with, especially actually around the same time that you had that hack. But
I think the reason why I kick myself is because I knew even then all of the fundamentals for Bitcoin were solid.
Right.
We need a monetary system that's compatible with the internet. And when I say that, it sounds, oh yeah, okay. But when you look at over on the Bitcoin subreddit, r/Bitcoin, and now many other places, they've implemented the Bitcoin tip bot. Have you seen this?
Yeah, I think so.
So you just in the comment thread over on Reddit, if somebody says something that you like a lot, you can give them an upvote, or you can do plus Bitcoin tip and the amount of Bitcoins you want to tip them, and a bot on the back end, which with a pre-funded account that you've pre-funded, delivers a Bitcoin tip to them. And it sounds kind of, like no big deal, but when you're actually there and you make some insightful post and it helps somebody, like, hey, thanks, man, and they send you a Bitcoin tip, or like, for example, the people that came up with the Plan B slogan, they were up on Reddit first, and I said, wow, this is awesome. Can I use this? And they're like, yeah, totally, you can use this. So I gave him a tip, right? And then later he's like, hey, man, well, also I created these Illustrator logos of the Plan B slogan, which you can use. Do you want them? And I'm like, wow. Yeah, I want them. So then I gave him I tipped him half a Bitcoin. And it's super easy just to reward the community. And it's this, when you have a currency that is backed by the people, so you can trust it, and it works over a peer-to-peer system, and it can be integrated into software like this. It is gonna, we have no idea what is ahead of us. We have no idea. It is like looking at the internet 15, 20 years ago, and looking at, dialing up to AOL and dialing up to CompUSA and envisioning Facebook and envisioning Skype and envisioning Google Hangouts. It would be incomprehensible. But all of the fundamentals to accomplish that were there, just like all of the fundamentals to accomplish that in Bitcoin are there. So I knew that back then, I know that now, and so that's why I kick myself even more, because I knew it. I knew better. I just got mad.
We all knew, man.
All right, I shouldn't get so upset. I'm sorry.
Well, you got to put the calculator down. That's the problem. I do that every day too. I'm like, well, what'll happen? Well, I had like 400 or 500 Bitcoins back in the day, and I don't have them anymore, because I sold them.
You had 400 to 500?
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
See, I told you. I've been there, man. You got to put the calculator down. You got to step away. You know, don't bust out calc.exe. None of that crap.
No,
I still do that every day. I'm doing that with Litecoin now. You know, you're like, well, once it gets to $8, you know, will I be out of the hole yet? It's like,
yeah.
It drives me crazy, but I'm sure everybody does it.
Well, so
Yeah,
I made a Litecoin mistake last night. You told me to get off Burnside. You said, here you told me about We Mine Litecoin, right, or something like that. Is that
something like that? We Mine LTC.
Yeah, We Mine LTC. That's right.
They had a problem yesterday.
Oh, really? So did freaking Burnside. So I had 3 machines hashing away all night long on the GPUs, and then I get up and none of them are connected. My stats haven't counted. I earned 1 Litecoin. However, I have mined 16 of them now. Wow,
that's pretty good. Yeah. I'm up to 3. I only started a couple of days ago, but man, once I switched over to, I had so many stales over at Burnside's, but once I went over to this new one, my video card's going crazy.
I mean, I picked Burnside because, they have a pretty good hash rate overall, but yeah, I think I'm going to move on because the stale rate's just ridiculous. So Litecoin, this is something that I think we're going to talk a little bit on this show, even though this is primarily a show that's going to be focused on Bitcoin. Litecoin's very interesting, and just quickly, if you're not familiar with it, Drew, would you say it's fair? I've seen this comparison made. If Bitcoin is gold, Litecoin is silver.
Yeah, that's what everybody says. I hope that it's true. I mean, I think there's certainly a place for that. I guess primarily because, I mean, if you got a faster block generation rate, you have faster transactions. Because when I was trading between Bitcoin and Litecoin on a BTCE, it takes some time for those Bitcoin confirmations to come in. And I was sitting there, Control F5, what's going on here?
Yeah.
And unless I'm misunderstanding it, I think that's a pretty cool part about Litecoin is, you got faster transactions because Bitcoin's just a little too slow for me.
Yeah, you got to put that fee in there to get it to, I always pay a little fee just to. Yeah, and so the other thing about Litecoin, and although this is already proving not to so much be the case, is it's supposed to be a little more CPU friendly. It uses script, and I guess that is not necessarily, I guess because it's more memory intensive, it's not necessarily great for GPUs. I don't know the details exactly, but I've been mining it on my Radeon 6 and 7 series cards, and I get anywhere between 300 and 400 mega hashes on those, and it feels very much like Bitcoin did early 2011 right now.
Yep.
Even like the software is, what is good is just forks of the Bitcoin software that's been adjusted for Litecoin because Litecoin's based on Bitcoin. So like anything that is good was for Bitcoin, and the stuff the miners, it's all command line right now. You're editing comp files or INI files. It's all like exactly where it was when I first started mining Bitcoin. But it's really, I think, on the precipice of the Litecoin transactions are going way up. The price is pretty. I don't remember what it is, but it's relatively it's
it dropped like $1 or $2 today. And believe it or not, it dropped immediately after I'd made a purchase.
Oh, man.
But I bought I think I bought 200 or 300 at I think 4.35, and it immediately dropped. So if you see me, if you ever hear about me making some trades, make sure you do the opposite of what I'm doing.
Right. Yeah. That sounds like what I'm learning. So I think, I guess the question is does Bitcoin have to be worth a ton of money in order for Litecoin to be worth a ton of money?
That's the question.
Yeah. Yeah.
They kind of move, relative to each other, not proportionally, but they kind of move together. Once Mt. Gox, went nuts, had a bunch of lag time, Litecoin just crashed. I mean, by $1 or $2, but it's had some wild swings lately. So
I don't see the fundamentals as much as I see them for Bitcoin, because a huge part of the fundamentals is Bitcoin. The number one thing people say is who backs Bitcoin. The people back Bitcoin. Every user of Bitcoin is a backer of Bitcoin. That's what's so freaking great. The thing about Litecoin, much smaller user base, much smaller, and the thing about Bitcoin also, you can divide it up into tiny fractions. So you don't, some people have made the argument, well, Litecoin's going to be better for microtransactions, but you can do microtransactions with Bitcoin.
Yeah, down to the 8th decimal place or something like that, right?
I do agree, though, that the blockchain is getting huge. I mean, maybe it would be good to take some of the smaller, minor transactions off the network, but I think Litecoin right now is at least worth playing with. I don't know if I'd buy it. I got close actually when it was at $2. I got close, but I just couldn't push myself over. Part of it, actually, honestly, is if it was a little easier to fund, I probably would have bought it.
No, that was a huge problem because I bought into it pretty significantly, especially relative to Bitcoin. But I couldn't find any way to really fund it, directly through fiat. So I basically had to move Bitcoin from Mt. Gox over to BTCE and then sell that for Litecoins. And then sell that for dollars and then make the trades there, back between Litecoins and dollars.
And I guess
that's the thing. It's a pain in the ass.
Yeah. And honestly, the reason why I want Litecoin right now is so I can get enough Litecoin to buy Bitcoin.
Oh, yeah.
If that's what people end up using Litecoin for, there's no long-term.
Yeah, that's the problem. Yeah. If it's just like some intermediary between, exchange points to get to Bitcoin. Yeah. Well, I'm hoping because I just need to, as long as we get to $8 in Litecoin, I'll be happy.
I'm going to stay with it for a little while. It might as well right now while the difficulty rate is low. And this is one, people have asked me a lot, how do I mine Bitcoin? And my answer is you don't anymore, really.
Ooh.
And people don't like that answer. But my follow-up answer to that is, why don't you try Litecoin? It still gives you. Here's the thing about mining. It's just fun. It's fun to look down at your computer and seeing it working away at stuff. It's fun to look at the charts, and you can actually convert this stuff into money that you could go buy another video card with, or something. I mean, that's what I did. So I say try it. Why not try it? And the fact that it's CPU friendly right now, it's not great. But if you join a pool, and we can toss a couple of links in the show notes to. We'll toss a link to the one we're going to be trying, and I'll put one into one I've been using. And you get in there, you can use it with your CPU. Why not try it for a little while and see if it works? And the other great thing is you can mine right now both, just like I used to do way back in the day with Bitcoin. You can mine on your CPU and your GPU at the same time. Is that how you do it?
There's also there is a GUI miner for Scrypt for Litecoins.
Oh,
so you don't have to do it through CG Miner or Reaper.
Oh, what's it called?
It's an alpha, but I've been using it for like a week.
Do you have a name?
For the program?
Yeah.
It's just a fork of the regular Bitcoin GUI miner.
Oh, okay. So just search for GUI miner for Litecoin.
Yeah, GUI miner dash Scrypt, something like that. It's an alpha right now.
Scrypt miner GUI. Here it is. I think I just found it. I found a post on bitcointalk.org.
It took a while to find it. I randomly stumbled upon it, but I can't do anything with Reaper. For some reason, my computer just shuts itself off. So once I went to the GUI miner,
so
it's really easy to set up. It has presets in there too. So you basically just pick your video card. I got a 9750. Boom, set it up. Turn down the intensity because I want to actually use my computer. Then there you go. I got like 3-4 Litecoins now.
Oh, that's nice. See, that's nice. I since I have the ATIs and all the machines I'm using, I just set it up once on one computer and then I just copy the directory to all the different computers. And I'll have to set it up again.
Yep.
But all right, so I'll take a look at Script Miner GUI is what it's called, right? Does that sound right? Script Miner GUI?
Something like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's something I got to look into because I'm not super happy with the way that works. And plus, I like to get it working under Linux too, because then I don't have to worry about malware as much and stuff like that, which is just nice not to really have to track any of that kind of stuff. Well, so man, we have so many things that we want to cover on this show. It is totally ridiculous, and we don't. This is not the completed show. We don't have it all put together yet because we just kind of launched a little early because the timing seemed like now. Like it seemed like now there needed to be more Bitcoin podcasts in the world. So we got started, but we have so much stuff down the road to cover. One of the things I want to do is get some interviews on this show. So if people have suggestions, I'd love to hear who you want us to talk to. I'd like to hear from developers of Bitcoin software and products and services. Kind of talk about them, why they're using Bitcoin and how they're using it. One of the other things I want to do, and Drew, tell me how comfortable you are with this, is I want to cover some of the taboo topics like gambling and Silk Road and things like that.
Hey.
What do you think of that?
I'm down, man.
That doesn't bother you? All right. Well, I'd like to do a gambling episode at some point and see.
A gambling episode.
Well, right? Why not? Because I mean,
hey, well, yeah, I'm down. I actually lost 2 Bitcoins on that blackjack one.
Yep.
BitZeno or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm only what 300 in the hole on just gambling. Didn't see that coming.
I tossed a few coins at Satoshi Dice just to see if I could spam the blockchain a bit, but and there's this the Bitcoin casino that is all based in Minecraft.
Ooh, that is very cool.
Yeah.
I haven't touched Minecraft and all, but that's a great idea, isn't it?
This is,
That's
again, this
fantastic.
is a way where Bitcoin can be used like nothing else, right? It's integrated right into the Minecraft world. You go into this Minecraft world, it is a freaking casino. And this is an example of, I'd love to get that guy on the show.
Yeah, and it makes you, and you can actually gamble and engage in activities voluntarily and freely with other people and not be a criminal.
It actually is totally legit because it's a virtual currency.
Exactly.
All right.
Imagine that.
So that's an example of somebody I'd like to get on the show at some point. If you guys have suggestions, you can email the show. I'll have an email address set up. It'll be planb@jupiterbroadcasting.com, and we'll also have it in the contact drop-down list. What do you think? Do you think, are you a Reddit user? Should we do a subreddit? I don't know. I'm kind of waiting on that one.
I browse it from time to time, but once I start, I just can't stop. So I've been kind of staying away a little bit, but that'd be a cool idea.
We'll
we
see.
get some good stuff in there probably, because you get a lot of stuff for unfiltered through there, right?
Yeah, and Last is a big one too, and TechSnap. Yeah, and actually, Coder Radio has a subreddit now that has.
Oh, that's right, the one you guys didn't know about, right?
Yeah, you listen to Coder Radio? Yeah, that was kind of funny. Yeah, I was thinking I would set one up. So I'll get to that, and we'll also be in. We'll have RSS feeds up on our site, and we'll have entries in iTunes. And so we're just going to start refining this show over time and making it better and better. We'll keep working in new things and new segments, and get to some educational stuff. I want to kind of do a regular FUD busting segment, because I think every week there's going to be FUD out there that probably should be covered. I got a couple we're tracking right now, actually. Sky News compared Bitcoin with Zimbabwe dollars, so I think that'd be a fun one to bust next week.
You'd be better off if you burned all your money, right?
That's what they said. You'd be better off burning all of your money than investing it in Bitcoin. And if you do use Bitcoin, they also said you're probably just using it to buy drugs.
Well, I mean, that's what it's for, right?
I guess, yeah, and criminal activity, I suppose. So tons of stuff. I'm really excited about this show. I think we're gonna have a long run, and I think Bitcoin is just getting started, and this show's gonna be here to document it.
Yes, sir.
Drew, man, is there anything you want to cover before we get out of here?
No, I'm good.
All right, so there you go. There's Plan B, and Plan B will be live. I think we're gonna do it on Tuesdays. We haven't really dialed that in yet, but check jupiterbroadcasting.com/calendar for that, and then of course. Check out the show notes for relevant links like the RSS feed, so you can get the show every single week. Some of the information we talked about, the topics you want us to cover, send in a contact form and let us know. Lots of things we're going to be covering soon, so we can always work in your ideas. Just let us know. But all right, Drew. Well, thanks, man, for the great first episode.
Oh, cool.
All right, everyone. Thanks so much for tuning in this week's episode of Plan B. We'll see you right here next week.